So the key is, I tell anyone who watches my video, I say, listen, red flags are not see it, run. Red flags are see it, address it. Then if it's not corrected, walk away. So the way to solve all this, and I'm so happy you brought up that example, because it is happening more often than people realize in so many different ways. Let me just mention real quick. On the internet, there are men who give other men advice, and I'm not calling anyone out specifically, and this is no shade, but men who give advice on tactics to make that woman want you that involve things like backhanded compliments, that involve things like ignoring her, that don't treat her this kind of way. There's a quote that says, if you treat her like a celebrity, she'll treat you like a fan, okay? And so I think women assume that when men engage in some of these things, it's automatically he's a player, he's trying to use me. No, he's a man who's actually trying to win you over, but is implementing bad advice. The same way it happens to women. There are women who behave and do certain things, not because that's who they are, not because that's their character, but it was the advice they were given. And unfortunately, society, in this microwave society that we have, if they don't see it the way they want right away, it's like you said, hell no, I'm out, this is not gonna work. Rather than, no, discuss it, because it may simply be a misunderstanding. And you will see, because in using your example, if this guy was the guy who really believes, no, we should be going half and half, and I don't believe in paying for any woman's bills, he would make that clear. I think there's this assumption that, oh no, well, you can ask them and they'll lie. The average person, when you ask the right questions, doesn't lie. There are liars out there, but most people, when it comes to their personal beliefs and the way that they want to have their relationships, they're very honest. So broke men who don't want to spend money on you usually don't lie about wanting to spend money on you, okay? They're not going to set up this whole idea that they're willing to spend. Now, are there men out there who will? Absolutely. Right. But in most cases, no. In most cases, he will proudly say, oh no, we do half and half over here. I believe in 50-50, boom, 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 boom. So you can rest assured that if you ask enough questions, he will show you who he is. And to me, that's how we need to better handle it rather than assuming things. Now granted, I would love for every man and every woman to understand what we may deem proper etiquette, but that's too complicated in this world where, again, people have different value systems. So I can tell a man, hey man, you should always be willing to pay for the date. Don't ever go there and not pay. But then look what happened to that guy. He paid and he got chewed out. But here's the other problem that I think both men and women have to understand. Stop doing what you think will work and do what works for you. So it's like, listen, I'll use me. I'm a man who believes in paying for the date. I don't believe in 50-50. I don't do 50-50, okay? So if I was that guy and I go on a date and I pay for it, and now you chew me out for paying for it, I'm not gonna stop paying for my dates. I just won't date you anymore. Because what works for me is paying. That's the way I work. I'm not deviating from that. We have to decide where do we draw our line in the sand. So even if you're a woman who believes in the man paying and the man providing and all these things, I don't want you to go on a date and go Dutch because you think that's your way to get your foot in the door, or because, you know, that's a better way for men to look upon you in favor. No, because you can't sustain that. And that's the thing. If this guy is truly a provider and he now accommodates this woman and changes his ways to try to be with her, will you be happy now in this new role you've been forced in trying to keep this person? All right? Same way, if you're a woman, and let's just say you are a career woman. You are because I believe, listen, there are women out there who are wired to be homemakers. That's where their heart is. That's where they're going to be happiest and at peace. There are other women who are wired to do things. They want to create businesses, or they want to jump on projects because that's what fuels them. And so now if you are the person who's fueled by projects and businesses and all these things, and you try to accept being a homemaker to make this man happy and to make it work, you've now robbed yourself of your own peace. You're not being true to yourself. You can't sustain this. You might keep it up for a while, but you're not going to be happy. And we can flip it the other way. There are women who really want to be at home, but they embrace being in a career to again, maybe it's their parents or someone told them you got to have your own thing or whatever the case may be, or they're seeing all these men who say you have to bring your own stuff to the table, whatever the case may be, but you're not happy there. You can't sustain it. So now you get with a man who thinks you like or you're okay with this career lifestyle. Let's say 5 years into it, because at some point your true self is going to come out. We cannot keep up this other life forever. So at some point you're going to come home like, I'm tired. I want to stay home with the kids. I don't want to do this. And he's going to look at you like, are you crazy? Like, I didn't sign up for this. Now there's a battle. Now you're forced to stay in this role that you never really liked. And yes, that can start all the way from the first date. What are you presenting? Who are you really? What works for you? And now the goal should be not trying to fit into other people's lives, but seeing who we fit together with. All right? This is the life that I know I want to live. This is the life that this person wants to live. Does it come into alignment with each other? If it does, we got something. If it doesn't, don't force the issue.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And that's exactly what my friend did on that date. She just communicated with him and was like, look, I'm the kind of girl, I like guys treating me to dinner. I don't need you to. I don't need you to buy me clothes. I earn my own money, but I like it. And so I really appreciated how upfront she was, honest she was. And it's that thing that it wasn't out of a necessity, right? And she was like, look, I don't need you to, but I still want you to. And the fact that she was able to communicate, I know that they went on multiple dates. I'm actually not sure if she's still dating him, but she then was able to have multiple dates with him because she was able to communicate with him on that first date what she was looking for. And I think that it was probably wonderful that he was also able to say his side of things as like, oh my God, thank God, you know, and just like, and this is why I was like that. And I think when you're able to have those types of communication and transparency, it can really work. The problem is when it's your first date, you always put in your best foot forward.
See, but and that's what we need to change. And again, it's not about, of course, I want your best self to show up, but it has to be your true self. Best foot forward should not be, how do I win the date over? Best foot forward should be, how do I show who I am to see if they really connect with me? That's best foot forward. And I think if we learn to accept that, and in accepting that, we have to understand everyone's not gonna like us. You're not gonna win every date. We have to approach dating not in a, I'm hoping for a second date. Approach it as in, I want to enjoy this experience, see if we connect, and we take it from there. That's it, all right? So if a second date doesn't happen, cool. I still enjoyed myself as best as I could. I showed who I am, we keep it moving. Because what happens is when you're in the mindset of trying to win this person over, one, you lose yourself in that process, all right? But two, you end up holding on to someone who never belonged in your life to begin with. Which brings it to number 3. Now you develop what I call dating fatigue, because now you're only prolonging the inevitable. Whether it's date 5, whether it's 5 months into the relationship, whether it's 5 years into a marriage, at some point, the true selves are going to show up. And if they don't align, we have a problem now. And this is gonna fall apart, all right? And if some people stay together, but they stay together in misery, all right? The quality of this experience goes completely out to the left, goes down the drain. So why even set ourselves up for that? From the jump, be who you are. And if they don't like it, cool. That just means you're moving on faster down the path of receiving the person who is for you.
I've got one of my favorite quotes of yours. You will never be good enough for the wrong person.
Absolutely.
I was like, that's so good. Like, that is so good. And so as you're talking, it's like, okay, if you show up to be your true self and the other person doesn't feel right, then don't try and change you. It's not about you not being good enough. It's about that no matter who, like how you try and shape yourself, it's the wrong person, so they'll never be right.
And let me say this, because I don't want the audience to misunderstand something. We have to also learn what truly is who we are and who we're choosing to be.
Go on.
So let's say, for example, and I've had some women say they're not affectionate people, all right? Now, I'm a firm believer that doesn't truly exist, All right. I'm not saying I couldn't be wrong, but I believe that the issue isn't that you're not affectionate, it's that you fear being vulnerable, because being affectionate is a level of vulnerability that is required in that exchange. And so there's something that has made you uncomfortable with this, okay? Now, I've yet to find a successful relationship that doesn't have healthy affection. So if you come across someone and they say, well, you know what, I like you, but you're just not affectionate, I don't want you to say, oh, well, that's just how I am, end of story. Because that's something, it's not who you are. It's something that you need to improve. You need to recognize that's an issue. We have to be honest with ourselves about what are unhealthy things and what are going to cause problems in any relationship, all right? And the reality is that even if you convince yourself, well, there's other non-affectionate people, how often have you seen two people who are not affectionate be very happy with each other over the long term? Because again, it's not really who they are. What's really happening is it's two people holding on to deeper issues that don't allow them to be affectionate. And so now you can't be happy in that relationship because the other issues will rear its ugly face in other ways. And it speaks to a greater disconnect within self. Because think about this, as children, what do? We cry to be held. No one told us to want to be held and to enjoy affection and love. We're wired that way. So to tell me as an adult that I'm just not like that, no. Another example is people who are blunt, all right? Now, I'm someone who is very blunt. And when I was—
One of the many things I love about you, by the way, let me just say.
But let me tell you, when I was younger, I disguised it as I was blunt without tact.
Okay, yeah.
All right? I just let it fly. And my whole defense was, well, I'm just being real. I'm just honest. The problem wasn't me, it's you. You can't handle my honesty. And I had to learn that, no, I was an asshole. That's the bottom line. I was a professional asshole, okay? and I thought it was, I convinced myself this was okay. But I had to learn that, no, you have a responsibility in how you deliver your message. So who I am is blunt, yes. But who I am not is being rude and crass and being lacking compassion with how people feel when I express certain things. So the key is not to stop being honest and blunt. I just had to learn how to do it with love, with compassion, with an understanding of how people receive me, learning how to be more in tune with self and other individuals so that I can relay this message in a way that you can receive. I had to accept the reality is you either want to be heard or you want to be received. I want to be received always. So I'm always going to be mindful of how I give a message. So all that to say, these are examples of, again, being rude, not being affectionate. They're not who you are. They're symptoms of other issues we have not resolved. Recognize those things. And you can always recognize them by asking yourself, will this make a relationship better? All right?
Yeah.
Lacking affection is not going to make a relationship better. Even if you guys can somehow tolerate it, it doesn't make it better. All right? Being so blunt to where you're not even concerning yourself with their feelings does not make a relationship better. Because once someone is emotionally invested in you, they're way more sensitive to your words. So if you can't learn to even speak to your partner correctly, you're gonna have a big problem on your hands. So anything you can recognize as not making the relationship better means you need to correct the issue. And again, there may be a part of that that is who you are, but there's a better version of it you need to reach.
So you mentioned earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was so powerful, and I bet you everyone at home is like, thank you, Lisa, for asking this question. What's the difference between connection and chemistry? Because you said people may think it's connection, but it could be chemistry.
Yes.
In fact, you talk about the 3 C's. Let's go back to that. Chemistry, compatibility, and connection. Okay. Can you break those 3 down and let us know which ones, are they necessary, or all 3 necessary, or only 1 necessary?
Okay, so let's start with compatibility. Compatibility to me is more of a logical approach to, do these 2 people fit together? So it's like, oh, okay, they come from the same background, they like the same things. It's basically on paper, they are compatible, which is why if you go to a dating site, they can match people based off of compatibility. But the reality is that it doesn't always actually work out, all right? Because compatibility is just one layer of it. And I'll be honest with you, it is the least needed layer, all right? Because again, compatibility is also based off of what we've been taught, social constructs of what should fit together. Meaning, if you had, think about if you're in a society that has a class system and you come from the upper class and you meet someone from the lower class. Well, society tells you you two are not compatible. You don't belong together. You're from different classes. But you two may experience the most amazing connection ever. And because you're caught up in compatibility and what society says, you will pass on that person. I actually had a woman who, she was dating a guy. I don't remember what her job was, but I know she was high earning woman, very successful. She met a man, I want to say he was a garbage man. I'm not 100% sure, but I know his job was not prestigious, all right? He wasn't broke, but nowhere near making her kind of money. They had an amazing connection, but she said her family would always say, he's not good enough for you. You should not be with this guy. He basically pursued her for 8 months. After 8 months, he finally gave up. After he gave up, she was mad and now saying, oh, he was never serious because he gave up. And I'm like, wait a minute, you made this man.
The poor guy,
try for
8 months.
exactly 8 months. You have your whole family saying he's not good enough. What do you want this man to do? And at no point did you fully embrace being with him.
Yeah, and let's face it, if it was the other way around and I had a friend that was a woman that was chasing a guy for 8 months, I'd be like, homie, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Like, so I actually, but it's funny how it's sometimes when it's reversed, it doesn't feel like that.
You know, exactly. So, but that's a perfect example of, you know, sometimes compatibility, the way we view it can get in the way. Now, I do believe that there's a level of compatibility that is necessary as far as sharing the same values. All right?
Yes.
We must share the same values. We must want the same things. That to me is a bigger form of compatibility. I think there are some generic, general ones we can use when it comes to compatibility. Because I also believe that being compatible should be about bringing balance to each other. All right? I think that some people make the mistake of looking for their match, looking for someone who's like them. And it's like, yeah, but now there's no balance in the relationship. Like to me, I'm very introverted. So being with another introverted person, I'm not saying that I would completely eliminate that possibility, but to me, it'd be more advantageous to be with someone who's a little more extroverted because it creates a balance in this relationship. A balance when we have other things in place that allow us to respect and value our differences. Because if we don't have connection, which we'll get to in a few, we may see these differences as a clash. But when we have the other foundational pieces, we actually value these differences because they bring out different parts of us. And now we can enjoy that.
Oh my God, that's so good. And can I just tell you, so that I don't know if you know, but that was basically the issue with me and my husband. I come from a very traditional Greek Orthodox family, and my husband's a white boy from Tacoma. And so, you know, when my dad met him, was like, well, he like it can't work. Like he was just like, of course it can't work. Like he's not christened. He doesn't understand our religion. He, you know, doesn't come from England or understand, you know, the Cypriot life. And so he eats chicken nuggets and fries. Like, well, we've got these big Greek dishes that are coming out and he wants fries. And so my dad was like, well, it can never work. And at the time I perceived it to be about me. Like I'm incapable of making it work. And what I realized is to your point, is that sometimes actually it was the fact that we were so different that made us so beautifully like combined, because he allowed me and asked me questions that I'd never considered even thinking through. So he would say, well, why do you believe in God? And, you know, why do you want children? I was like, and then he's just like, I watch porn. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, you know, he was like, almost like completely going against everything I'd ever thought about what a first date would be, and what I thought was compatible. And I even said I wouldn't have ticked all his boxes. Like a dating app never would have put us together.
Exactly.
They wouldn't have put us together.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I say compatibility is a more logical, on paper approach, but it's shaped by people's personal perceptions. Because what one person will say can be compatible, the next person might say differently. You know, and of course these dating apps use all kinds of scientific studies, but still, they're shaping it based off certain references they have, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So chemistry, I would say, is a step up. Because now where compatibility is on paper, and you can determine if people determine compatibility even just by looking at certain qualities that have been listed. Chemistry requires two people actually mixing together, so to speak. You can't determine chemistry unless you guys actually engage and interact, right? And the thing with chemistry is that it is definitely an important piece of the puzzle. However, we have to understand that one, chemistry is in greater abundance than connection, which we'll talk about. Because think about it. If you are a social person who has a great personality, you can have chemistry with a lot of people. It's not rare to come across a bunch of people you feel chemistry with because you know how to get along. You know how to fit with people. Chemistry is how we flow together, how we're able to engage with each other, all these different things. As well as the fact that chemistry can be created. And I always use the example of sports or corporations. We have team building exercises to build chemistry. We can put together 5 players on a basketball team who've never played together, and in time they can learn to have chemistry. So you can create it and you can destroy it. Because the minute that someone wants to go off that path, chemistry is done. You can have 2 people who get along so well, but if this man or woman changes certain aspects about themselves, that chemistry can go away immediately. Or if they were presenting a false representative of themselves, you built chemistry based on the false representative. Now when the true self comes, chemistry gone, all right? Because again, it's a very fluid thing. It can come, it can go, you can get it back, you can lose it, all these things. And so a lot of women, they'll meet a guy, and one example I wanna use, because I just come across it a lot and I find it very funny, is when people claim they have sexual chemistry with someone they haven't had sex with. Okay? And
I'm like so trying to process that right now. Yeah, what does that
think about that? Chemistry requires the two to actually engage and mix. How can you claim sexual chemistry without sex? What you're experiencing is attraction and maybe horniness happening all at the same time.
Isn't that just being horny?
Yes, that's what it is. It's like we're both attracted, we're both a little horny, and we're both receptive to it. So this energy that we're feeling right now, we label it chemistry. But there are people who felt that, went into the bedroom, and it was trash, all right? Because it was never chemistry, okay? So we have this habit of mislabeling things and misinterpreting things and using this whole chemistry as validation for why we should move forward. No, there's more to it than that. So again, with chemistry, it's something that is more abundant and, like I said, can be built, can be destroyed, and you need it. You need it. So I don't discredit it as much as I would compatibility, but it is it's misused in a lot of situations, which now brings us to connection. Connection to me is the biggest piece of the puzzle. And when there is connection, there will be chemistry, all right? Compatibility, there's an argument there because again, what looks good on paper, because look at you and your husband. You guys could have chemistry and connection, but people would say, but you guys weren't compatible. So that doesn't have to be there. But chemistry, you guys, I'm sure, still had the chemistry, had the connection.
And we work on that chemistry even to this day after 22 years later.
But here's the thing. Connection is the glue that holds it all together. So people's ability to work through things are severely hindered when there is not a connection there, all right? There isn't that deeper draw to each other. And what I believe on a spiritual level is your spirit recognizing its match. Because they say spiritually things happen in the spirit realm before they happen in our world, so to speak. So it's almost like the spirit already knows this is who I'm supposed to be with. The spirit already knows this is who I can connect with or whatever the case may be. We, in our human form, however you want to phrase it, we just have to come to an acceptance of it. You see, people experience connection, but they struggle to accept the connection. Connection is also much more rare. If you were to survey people and ask them how many times have you experienced this deeper connection, at most you might hear it's 2 times. And there's other theories I have as to why it's so rare. One, I think it's just rare because it's not meant for, if we look at it again from a spiritual assignment type of perception, we're not assigned to everybody. We cannot be with just anybody. And some people will think you can just, I'm gonna speak on this real quick from a very Christian perspective, but I know that this doesn't apply to everyone. Everyone has different beliefs. But even if you look at it from from biblical perspectives, everyone did not come from the same tribe, so to speak. All right. And you were told, you can't be with someone outside the tribe. They will pull you away from God. They will pull you into their gods. All right. So let's just say every tribe has that belief system that, hey, you have to deal with the people within this circle, because outside of that, it will pull you outside and now compromise where you're supposed to be. So no matter how you want to apply that, it just speaks to the fact that You can't just pick and choose who you want and say we're going to make it work. And even if we take away spirituality for a second, I believe that we're all wired a certain way. Life isn't about making something of yourself or becoming who you want to be. It's discovering who you are and then bringing it to its fullest potential. All right. Like, you ever see, like, there's kids who, I've met so many adults where they're unhappy in their work life. And when you really dig deep into their lives, what they really want to do as an adult was something that they loved as a child.
Yeah.
It was always there.
Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, though, society derails kids and says, no, you can't do this. This won't make enough money, or this isn't prestigious enough, or this or that. And so people go in a completely different direction. And then what happens is, by the time you become an adult and you can make your own decisions, or you've gone so deep down the path of building whatever life that society, parents, whoever told you to, that now it's too scary to go in the direction that you're really called to go into. And instead you stay where you're at because it's easier, all right? Same thing happens in relationships, I have to mention. Some people have gone so far off the path, relationship-wise, maybe in the wrong relationship, that now, even when they come across that person they have a connection with, it's too scary to now go over there. It's too scary to have to uproot your family, maybe if you have kids. And it's understandable, but this is what's happening to so many people. So going back to connection, again, I believe on a deeper level is our spirit. It's who we are assigned to, so to speak. And it's the glue, because whatever that draw is, it gives us that extra motivation, that extra strength to want to work through things. So I look at it like this. Like, one of the things I always say is, going back to sex, the key to great, long-lasting sex is connection, all right? There's a lot of people who will think, well, no, I have to test drive before I get married or whatever, because I gotta know what I'm getting myself into. And those same people can tell you stories of how the sex was great in the beginning and then it went away. And you ask why? Like, his thing didn't change. It's the same thing it was before, all right? She's not much different than she was before. What has changed here? Well, one of the things that's changed is motivation to please you. Because initially, my motivation was to impress you. My motivation was to get you, to lure you in, so I did everything I could to please you. But if at my core, I don't like who you are, I'm not in love with who you are, I'm not gonna be as motivated to keep pouring into you. I believe a lot of people become narcissists in their relationship. They were not narcissistic in the beginning, which is why you didn't see it the way that you see it now, all right? Because sometimes what happens is, if you have, I'll give an example. You have two people that get together. They're not truly in love, but they become attached for various reasons. And initially, because they're trying to make it work and it's fresh, it's new, or they're just happy to have someone, they go all out, right? But again, because there's not a connection, because they're not really in love with each other, at some point they start to get more lackadaisical. They start to slack off, all right? They're not pouring into you the same way. They're not caring about your feelings the way they should. So now, whoever is getting the short end of the stick, or the shorter end of the stick, it is very possible for them, or it can happen on either side, to now say, okay, I'm gonna look out for me. Now it's all about me, because I'm not getting what I need from my partner, so I'm gonna make this all about me. Entering the narcissism, you see? But it's all stems from, because you guys weren't really into each other, because you guys didn't have the connection, because true love did not exist here. And that's why when people will say, you know, the quote that says love conquers all, and people say, well, love didn't win here. No, love never existed there. You guys were driven by something completely other than love. You just slapped a label on love on it and thought that would make it work. No, you weren't being honest with yourselves about, why are you really here? Why are you holding on to this person? Some of you are holding on because you're afraid to be alone, not because you love them. Some of you are holding on because your parents pressured you, saying, you're getting older, when you're gonna have babies, when you're gonna get married. And that got in your head, and so you forced the issue with a man that you don't really love like that.
The single shaming is so real right now.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, it happens to men too. Women don't know that or realize that. Yes.
Tell me, I've never heard a guy say, all my friends are like, people need to stop freaking single shaming me, because it's kind of like, you haven't found a man yet. It's like, would you rather me be with the wrong person? But the older generation, they don't think like that. It's just about, well, you're single. It means that you're broken. It means there's something wrong with you.
Yes. And so one, they don't think about it being about true love, which is why it leads to so many bad relationships, because they're not brought together through love. Let me say this, and I'm gonna bring it back to men being single shamed. So I was at an event a couple months ago, and a man brought up the point about arranged marriages and how we should just go to a system of arranged marriages because they're way more successful, they stay together longer, all these things. And I said, no, you're evaluating success with longevity.
Yes.
And those things are not equal, all right? At least for me, I am about helping people create healthy, happy relationships, not just staying together just to stay together. So now, as far as men being single shamed, I actually had a man a month ago, he called me. He was calling because he was going through a breakup, so he needed advice. And he told me how his father asked him, are you gay? He's like, you're gay? Are you gay? You know, you're still single, you're not married yet, you have no kids, what's the problem? And he was like, Dad, I'm not gay. It's not that simple. And he's like, no, you're gay. The difference is this. Men do not talk about the pressures they go through as much as a woman will, especially, at least specifically, with, let's just say with dating and relationships, all right? Because again, does the man want to tell everyone how his father's asked him if he's gay because he's single? No. Does a man even want to talk about how, you know, his family's pressuring him to have babies and stuff like? No. And I think also because to a certain extent, I will say this, it may bother the man less than it bothers the woman. All right? It bothers him, but the pressure if that same father gave the same equal amount of pressure to the woman and to the man, it would weigh on the woman more. All right?
I think so, because society says that you should be married at this point, you should have kids at this stage, and hey, you're just only getting older than what especially women, right? It's like almost the older we get, the harder it is, the less we're pursued. Let's just leave it as that. But
exactly.
I think that that's true.
And no, it is. It unfortunately is. You know, what I want women when they hear that to understand is, because I think that message is going around the internet a lot. All right, that basically you're older. Some men are telling these women, you're older, it's done for you, it's a wrap. It's not a wrap. I was at an event the other day. I'm always at some event, but I was at an event the other day, and the guy on the panel with me said he knows a woman that's 60 years old just got married. I know a woman who at 41 got married and was a virgin for the majority of her life, okay? I think all the way up to 40. So it's never it can't happen for you. Whenever you hear these messages, don't think like that. Yes, does it make things harder in the sense of, does the pool shrink? Yes, but to me, the way we should look at it is, you're not trying to get the whole pool. You're just looking for one, all right? So it doesn't matter if it went from, you went from 1 million available men to 500,000 available men. You still only need one of those guys. So don't let that make you think you can't have it if that's what you truly want and desire. I think it's always gonna go back to, are you willing to put in the work to receive what you want out of life? That's in any area, whether it be your health, whether it be relationships, whether it be financially, it's always gonna be about, are you willing to take the necessary steps? But yes, men are being single shamed plenty out there, all right? Plenty. It's happening on both sides. But going back to the discussion of the arranged marriages and things of that nature, yeah, there's just so many people who they're not truly happy where they are. Like, I make the argument that the majority of married people, the majority of couples, are people in relationships with someone they don't have the strongest feelings for. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. Choose a partner that's good for you. Not good for your parents, not good for your bank account, not good for your image, but good for you. Because that's how you can find true happiness. That's how you can experience